I'm going to have one additional question. So one of the things that I was thinking about as the panelists were talking and in preparation for this is that, you know, the cybersecurity threats that each of your states face, it's not like it just faces Maryland or Louisiana or Arkansas, right? These are threats that happen across the state. So I'd be curious from all three of the governors, and then Ron, from your perspective, how do you think about state collaboration, right? How do you work with your fellow states in this region or your fellow governors nationally as you think about the threats that you all face on cybersecurity?
Look, one of the great things about the NGA, and not just putting a plug in because we've got the chairman here in this panel, but you know, having been involved and on the executive committee for nearly 7 years, I can tell you there's a terrific cooperation between the governors across party lines. In a very bipartisan way. Both we talk to our governors on a regular basis across the country. We also talk to our neighbors in the regions. And I think it's probably a really good example of maybe how folks in Washington could spend a little more time working together, because I think the governors do an amazing job of working not just on this topic, but on, you know, during COVID was a perfect example of how the governors stepped up on the front lines, but there was tremendous communication on a constant basis with people that were facing the similar threat.
Excellent. Governor Hutchinson, any thoughts on state coordination in cybersecurity?
Well, Governor Hogan is exactly right. The NGA has a means of sharing best practices with the governors. And so that's, to me, a key ingredient is that we learn from each other how we're handling cyber attacks, what's the best way to educate the workforce, as well as sharing information. The other ingredient, of course, is the Fusion Center, which is an intelligence sharing mechanism in which the private sector, law enforcement, our state participates, but we have the FBI there and we have national information being shared in that fashion, which is critical from an intelligence standpoint. And then I think it's important that we share information on gap analysis. You know, we did a consultant study and review of what we had in Arkansas and our gaps so we could address those from a cybersecurity standpoint. I think we can all learn from each other in that way as well.
Thank you, Governor. Governor Edwards, any thoughts from your perspective? How have you worked with your fellow governors, maybe in the region or nationally?
Yeah, well, thank you. And I have to agree with Larry and Asa. And if there's a governor out there who doesn't speak to other governors and share ideas and work collaboratively, I haven't met him or her. And that's true regardless of party. Just yesterday, Asa and I had a phone conversation about something unrelated to this. I will tell you that I think the NGA plays a critical role in this. You all will remember that I think it was about 3 years ago, time gets away from me now, we had a conference in Northwest Louisiana on cybersecurity that was sponsored by the NGA. All 50 states sent representatives to that, and that almost never happens. And so when we learn from one another and together develop best practices that we can then incorporate into what we're doing, I think that is incredibly important. And so the NGA facilitates that. I do believe that we can also use the Council of Governors. I happen to be one of those now, and because this is a defense-related issue, it's covered. And I think we need to look at having CISA operate a little bit more like FEMA with respect to grant opportunities, so that we can get in and do the work necessary. And then also maybe even like FEMA has a disaster fund that you can draw on in times of disaster, maybe subject to some federal match. CISA could do something like that too. And then you would have to meet those standards if you want to access that funding. But just some things that I will throw out that we potentially could consider going forward.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Governor.